episode 4, Trev's Wrestling Show, here on Trev TV. I'm the Trev. This is Papa Emeritus III. Glad you guys are here. He's with me for the second video in a row today. So, 2018 is coming to a close. I know my last favorite moments of 2018 video, I said my favorite 10, but there was only 5. That was a complete blooper on my part. Joke's on you, Trev. I know. If I can't poke fun at myself, what can I poke fun at, right? Anyway, I figured this time I'd get it right. And this is going to be my top 10 wrestling moments of 2018. This isn't just WWE. This is WWE, New Japan, Ring of Honor, Impact, if you can believe that, and just everything as a whole as far as wrestling is concerned, because I try not to be too, how do I put it, overly concerned with what WWE does. I like variety. I've always liked variety, and that's why I miss WCW, which I will make a video on at some point. But anyway, I'm going to go through what I thought were my top 10 favorite moments of the last 12 months. So, in no particular order and a manner designated by yourself, and with Papa's approval, I'm going to start off at number 10 with WWE Evolution, the all-female pay-per-view. Now, let's look past the fact that it was completely overshadowed by Crown Jewel, which only happened 5 days after the fact, but there was the politics before it, and all that fun stuff, which I'm not going to get into. Politics, religion are things I don't talk about, or at least I try not to anyway. But overall, it was a pretty good show. I mean, you had the NXT UK dark match, which I believe was for the women's UK title, because they were crowning a new champ at that event, I believe, or it was her first defense, one of the two. I don't even know the name of the lady who has it, but she still has it. You had the NXT Women's Championship between Baszler and Kairi Sane, which looked painful. Very painful. I mean, I'm sure Baszler has toned down a lot, but I mean, even half the stuff she still does just looks painful. Then you had the SmackDown Women's Championship, which was brutal. I mean, you go from a painful match to an absolutely brutal match. It was a last woman standing match, so weapons were completely legal, and the spots they were taking, oh, pain for anybody. And then you had the WWE Raw Women's Championship, which, was predictable. The only thing that really wasn't predictable, that it went 15 minutes. I, along with, I'm sure, a lot of other people, thought it was going to be over in about 3 minutes. But, I guess, to make Bella look good and to get Rousey over like they do, it actually went 15 minutes. All in all, it was a very good pay-per-view. I mean, again, Crown Jewel kind of overshadowed it, but it was still good. Coming in at number 9, it's what I like to call the rise of Becky Lynch. She's always been popular from a fan standpoint that I can tell, but her push really began at SummerSlam in 2018, when she lost and turned on Charlotte. It was supposed to be a heel, but really kind of came off as a tweener. She wasn't quite heel, she wasn't quite face. I mean, I'm sure the head office wanted her to be booed, but she just wasn't getting booed. She was getting over. She won the SmackDown Women's Championship in September at Hell in a Cell, and she lost it at TLC on December 16th to Asuka in a triple threat with Charlotte because of Ronda Rousey. And I really want to see how far they can push this Lynch-Rousey storyline, because it looks interesting. She was booked to face Rousey in Survivor Series, but we all know what happened with the face break incident. If you haven't seen it yet, check out Nia Jax breaks Becky's face. My own personal opinion, a lot of people are throwing around the Stone Cold reference, and I'm almost reluctant to do that, because the last person I thought of being like a Stone Cold was Dean Ambrose, and that turned out so well, right? So I'm kind of hesitant to do that, but I'm glad they're actually pushing her in a way that's believable, that makes her actually look tough, makes her look big. It has potential, I'll say that much. For number 8, And this is kind of one of those things that you never ever thought you'd see back in the day. AJ Styles in his 371-day run as WWE champ. I've been a fan of AJ ever since I first started watching TNA. I said TNA. That goes all the way back to 2002. So, seeing him come up in the ranks of TNA, seeing him hold the NWA championship 3 times, seeing him hold the TNA championship twice, seeing him hold the New Japan IWGP heavyweight championship twice. So seeing him on WWE was nice. He won the WWE championship November 7th, 2017. And he lost it to Daniel Bryan on November 13th of this year. It's the first world championship he's held for over a year, believe that or not. So 365 is a calendar year. It was basically a year and a week. I honestly thought they were going for 434, which is how long CM Punk held it for, and I thought they were trying to, beat that and remove that from the history. I mean, you can't really remove it from the history, but I thought that's where they were going. But seeing him hold it for over a year, that was nice. Number 7 on the list, Wrestle Kingdom 12. It was the first Wrestle Kingdom I had actually ever watched. Front to back. I had caught old Wrestle Kingdoms on YouTube by match. So this is the first one I watched from start to what I tried to get to finish. I think I finally passed out after the 4-way with Marty Scurll and Zack Sabre Jr. Or no, Will Ospreay, sorry. I think Sabre was in the match too. 10 matches on the card. 3 of them were over half an hour. And I had to watch those later. I had to watch those the next day because I had already been up till 3:30 in the morning on January 4th. Oh, Scurll, Ospreay, Takahashi, and Kushida. I was willing to call that match of the night at that point, but I didn't have the benefit of watching Omega, Jericho, or Okada Naito, which was a completely amazing match. Both of them were. I don't know why the Meltzer gimmick didn't give it 5 stars. I mean, I would have gave it 5 stars, but Jericho, Omega, they got the 5 stars, obviously, because it was Omega. He always gets the 5 stars. But the Meltzer gimmick is something completely different that I'll talk about on a different day, because I could be here for at least a half an hour explaining why the gimmick is just done with the Meltzer gimmick. Number 6, and this might come across as kissing ass on the WWE part, but I'm going to say NXT as a whole was a good point for 2018. Strong pay-per-views. Every pay-per-view they had was strong. All their takeovers usually did better than the pay-per-views the main brand put on the night after. Back to the Meltzer gimmick, it had 3 5-star matches this year. 2 of them were at TakeOver New Orleans, which was the day before WrestleMania. I don't think WrestleMania had a 5-star match. I think it had maybe a couple over 4s, but I don't think it had a 5 at all. But those were, Gargano Ciampa at TakeOver New Orleans. And then you had Adam Cole, baby, against EC3, Killian Dane, Lars Sullivan, Ricochet, and Velveteen Dream in a ladder match for the NXT North American Championship, which was making its debut. And then you had Andrade Almas and Johnny Wrestling at TakeOver Philadelphia. The weekly shows, not counting the takeovers, but the weekly shows actually have great stories that I'm actually interested in, that I'll actually watch. So it's nice to see, something that's not completely associated to the main roster and actually has a bit of difference that I can call variety. But it was good to see one branch of WWE actually step up. Number 5. The Impact turnaround. Now, ever since Anthem bought what was TNA, which was on its deathbed, which was financially strapped, had no money to pay anybody, couldn't get their pay-per-view Bound for Glory up and running. Ever since Anthem bought them out, ever since they got Dixie Carter out of Power, out of office. I think she still has a 5% stake, but Anthem has the 95%. And then it turned into Global Force Wrestling, which was the brainchild of Jeff Jarrett, who was the brainchild behind TNA in its early days. It went from being, like I said, on its deathbed and completely unwatchable to somewhat interesting on a weekly basis. And having Tessa Blanchard doesn't hurt either. She is good for the eyes, I will say that. Johnny Morrison, Johnny Impact, Johnny Nitro, whatever you want to call them next week, Johnny Mundo. I would say he's helped out a lot as far as what's made it compelling. I mean, having Austin Aries didn't hurt either. But having a storyline pushed by TMZ, which was the Johnny Impact Austin Aries story, that's good exposure too. You can never say that's not. But it's good to see them actually turning the corner and getting better and wanting to get better. You know, to compete alongside the Pro Wrestling Guerrillas and the Ring of Honors and stuff like that and become a number 2 brand again. You never know. I mean, stranger things have happened. I'd love to see it happen. If it doesn't, well, they tried. But it's good to see either way. Number 4 was the Jericho Cruise. And this year was a good year for independently funded wrestling. I mean, obviously this wasn't first, and we'll get to that one in probably a minute. But this one was more or less just a lot of Ring of Honor guys going on a cruise aboard the Norwegian Jade from October 27th to 31st from Miami, Florida, to Nassau in the Bahamas. So not a bad 4-day cruise. And a nice little mix of comedy and music, podcasts, and of course, wrestling. Now, I haven't seen the whole thing from front to back. I've caught match here, match there. I really did love the Bullet Club, as though they weren't really part of the Bullet Club at that point. Earlier in the week, they announced they'd all disassociated with the Bullet Club. They eventually went out and became their own faction, the Elite. If you haven't seen their web show, Being the Elite, check it out. Against the Alpha Club, which was Jericho and the Young Bucks. It's a good match. Good from a story point. But well worth checking out. And again, this wasn't first, but I'll tell you what was. Number 3 was All In. And that took place September 1st at the Sears Center in Chicago. Well, Hoffman Estates, but Chicago nonetheless. And this was independently funded, much like the Jericho Cruise. I mean, it had sponsors, much like the Jericho Cruise, but all the money was put in by Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson. An amazing show from start to finish. There was questionable spots here and there, but I mean, I have no complaints about the show at all. I mean, the main event could have been a little bit longer, but you know, when you're running against a time crunch, compromises have to be made, and I mean, you sacrifice what could have been a good 15-20 minute match into an 8-minute match, which was just as good. It was good to see the NWA World Championship have a spotlight again, and as we all know the story, Cody Rhodes, him and his late father Dusty Rhodes became the first father-son combo to hold the NWA World Championship. So again, it was good to see it get some exposure as opposed to being a dead relic. You know, I mean, they're really trying to bump up the NWA brand. I mean, good for Billy Corgan for purchasing it, but I mean, where it can go from here all depends on what kind of business partnerships they want to work with, I'm sure. But which brings me to number 2, Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt winning the Raw Tag Team Championship. Now, I know you're probably thinking, well, what's so special about that? I mean, there was nothing really special. The match really wasn't that good. It was for the vacant championship after Braun Strowman and Nicholas, one of the referee's kids, vacated the championship. I mean, the Meltzer gimmick only gave it 2 stars. So what's so special about that? It wasn't for the fact that it was in Saudi Arabia. That was the least popular theory about it. The fact that it was April 27th. That date is a bit of synonymous with the Trev, but so that's why it's number 2. Now, what could be number 1, you're asking? Well, it's simple. Omega and Jericho winning the top New Japan Championships on June 9th. And again, this is not one of those, it's synonymous only because of the date. But June 9th was New Japan's Dominion in Osaka. And you had Omega defeat Okada in a 2 out of 3 falls, no time limit match for the IWGP World Championship. The Meltzer machine gave that 7 stars out of a possible 5. So, without going into too much as to spoil another rant video, if you want to call it that, the Meltzer gimmick, which gives you a possibility of 5 stars, gave Okada Omega 7 stars out of a possible 5. That's like giving 120%. You can only physically give 100%. But I digress. It was a good match, though. I will say that. And then Jericho defeated Tatsuya Naito for the IWGP Intercontinental Championship, which the Meltzer gimmick gave it 4.5 stars out of 5. Go figure, right? Now, what's so special about that, other than the fact that it's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, the GOAT, Chris Jericho, defeating my favorite wrestler of current time in Kenny Omega. Well, not defeating him, but the fact that they both won major championships on the day I got married. That's one of those things you'll never forget, ever. I mean, when you put the reminder on your phone that says, "Hey, your anniversary's on this date," but it was also the same date. 2 of your favorite wrestlers won major championships. That's something you want to put on your resume. Like, I got in common with that. I mean, I haven't really gotten Melissa's opinion on the matter, but I'm sure she's quite stoked about it. I just have this weird thing of sharing dates with synonymous things. And there you go. There's my top 10 moments in wrestling for 2018. I want to thank you for tuning in. Your viewership always means so much to me. Always has, always will. The more you watch, the more I enjoy it. So, if you like this video, feel free to hit the like button. If you want to subscribe, feel free to do that on your way out. Subscribe button's down there. Feel free to find me on Facebook at Trev's TV. Feel free to find me on Instagram at rockstartrev TV. And that's it for the scheduled videos. Ones I had scheduled that I was going to do. Next video, if it's not another 2018 review video in a different field, or if it's not a spontaneous video, will probably be the hockey pool update at the end of the month. But we'll see that in the new year. So, having said all that, in the meantime and in between time, you'll look out for more videos from Trev. Later.